Hey everybody, how's it going? So today we're going to get started working on yet another dead MacBook. Here we have an A1502. This A1502 appears to be not powering on after some liquid damage. Let's get started on this MacBook and see if we can make it work again. First thing we have to do, de-corona the desk. First thing we do, make our desk nicely de-coroned. Die corona, die. Next thing we do is de-corona the MacBook. Have our MacBook here. MacBook there. Here a Mac, there a Mac, everywhere a Mac. Die corona, die. No corona in the air, no corona in my chair. No corona here or there, no corona anywhere. GTFO, corona. No virus for me. Listen to that Dries and Joe Rogan podcast with I forget the guy's name. I know he has Yo in his name, but I listened to that podcast and nope, no corona for me. Screw that. I'm not going through that. I'm not getting corona from this MacBook. Die! Death to this vile virus. So as we can see here, we're taking 200 milliamps at 18.5 volts. However, we're not getting a fan spin. And this is a model where I would expect to see the fan spin. And the fan is not spinning. So let's just do our preliminary tests and unplug some things that could cause the fan to not spin. Like the keyboard or the trackpad. And still nothing there. So now we're going to unplug the I/O board and see if that does anything. Remember, before you say that you have a board problem, you got to make sure you don't have a parts problem. When we unplug the I/O board, we're still topping out at around 200 milliamps, which means that we almost certainly have a board problem. You unplug this. Yeah, this is going to be a board problem. Now, what is it that causes 174 milliamps, a little bit of jumping up and down, on an 820-3476 A1502 2013-14 MacBook Pro board? Does anybody know? Could be a massive short, but I don't think so. I don't think it's a massive short, and the reason I don't think so is because it's going up and down. A massive short would be taking a specific set amount of amperage, not going up and down. Okay. Now, I think I found it, actually. Yeah, watch this. I bet it's a PP5 ESO short through the keyboard backlight connector. But I'll let you be the judge and tell me. Yeah, let's put my microscope light back on, because I took the damn thing off so that I could finish up my microscope camera review video. I did a second comparison with HDR. Anyway, let's get this board out of the case. I actually, I could tell my voices kind of went down a little. I actually got sad just thinking about that whole shit that I was reading. Okay, on to this. So, the first thing that I saw immediately is this. You take a look at this. You'll see. First thing. Breathe a little heavier. Please, the mic isn't picking it up. OnlyFans member. You know what? Just for you. Just for you, you fuck. How about this? Anyway, back to this. So, one of the first things, it's pretty obvious there, is that the keyboard backlight connector is destroyed. And take a look at that with my brand new handy dandy microscope light. Eh? I know it. Whoops. Isn't it pretty? Your breathing sounded very moist. Subscribing. Yes! I've gained a subscriber! How does it look? What do you think? 1 HDR or no HDR? What do you guys think? Like, no HDR but more exposure, or more HDR and less exposure? I don't know. HDR kind of fucks with everything. I'm personally not a big fan of the HDR. Unless I'm zooming in, I'm going to keep HDR off. Anyway, so this is the keyboard backlight connector. Now, PP5 ESO is what's going to power the keyboard backlight. Now, what's really interesting about the MacBook is that if you have a problem with the screen backlight, the machine will still turn on. On older models, it blows the fuse. On newer models, there's a current sensing circuit, and the current sensing circuit is going to tell if the MacBook backlight, if the screen backlight is taking too much power, it's just not going to turn on the backlight. But it'll turn on the rest of the computer. So you can plug it into an external monitor, you could have a flashlight going through the back. With the keyboard backlight, which is powered by the same chip, if there's a short, it just kills the computer. Wow. Watch, I'm going to demonstrate right now how well this machine is engineered. So, what I'm going to do, just going to remove this keyboard backlight connector. Just like this. A little bit of flux. A little bit of hot air. Yeah, I agree with you. The HDR is something I'm only going to use when I do lots of zoom. But it's better to have a more powerful light and less HDR. So watch, we just removed it, like that. Focus. Focus, focus. And what's really cool here is that the pads are not removed, because on the other occasions where I've had to remove this connector, the pads have been completely destroyed. And here the pads are not completely destroyed, which I think is great. So I obviously don't need the keyboard backlight to be there for it to turn on. So I'm going to try and see if I get fan spin now that the keyboard backlight connector that looks destroyed has been removed. And I am going to get it. I am going to get it. You'll see. So this is my board right here. Just going to have the power supply on. Apple thinks keyboard backlight is essential, but screen backlight isn't. Think different. Something like that. All right, so we're going to plug it in. It's taking 600 milliamps, which means that we're going to see a fan spin, and bam. Now, the reason that I find it really funny that the screen backlight won't kill the machine, but keyboard backlight will, is because it's the same circuit. So you'd think if you had the same chip controlling them, and you had about the same circuit, that you'd get the same result from a short on each one. But, as I'll show you, you don't. So let's just open up a schematic here to the 820-3476. Actually, all I have is a schematic to the 820-3536, which is pretty much the same thing. Let me just go over here. We're going to go over to the backlight circuit. That's going to be up here around U7700. Now, when you go to U7700, what you'll see is that this page has both the backlight output to the screen over here and the backlight output to the keyboard over here. The same chip is controlling both. So if it's going to tell if there's a short over here and turn it off, why can't you set it to see if there's a short over here and turn backlight off as well, rather than just shorting PP5 ESO to ground and killing the entire computer? Think different, baby. Anyway, let's put a new connector on there. Obviously, this customer is going to need a new keyboard backlight, because that keyboard backlight is done for. That's not going to work properly anymore. Let me get myself a Q-tip. I'm going to need some Q-tips. HDR is good to an extent. If I'm fully zoomed in, I have no problem using HDR once I've run out of exposure, Donald. But it's using HDR in the beginning is no need for that. We have Tim in the chat. Tim, how's everything? How are you doing? How's everything going? Thank you, Grant. Good morning from Oz, he said. Is that one of those strange places where underground, where they have crocodiles and alligators and dingoes and Paul Danielses? Uh-oh. They're one on top of the other. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm addicted to your content. Keep up the good work. Why, thank you. Oh. Okay. Now we find another connector, and I think I could just hot air that thing in. I'm going to try just hot airing it on there. Is I got to find a board that has that damn connector still. Here you go, found one. Let's get some good old crotch cam. Oh yeah, crotch cam. All right. Let's get this going there. Got the fume extractor over here. Take my hot air station. I'm going to remove my nozzle from the hot air. Thank you, Matsuik. I heat from the bottom of the board because I don't want to ruin the connector. See how that just kind of fell into place? It's beautiful. I have the nozzle off of it, so I'm not directing a bunch of air into one tiny place. Rather, I'm kind of heating the board as a whole. That's a much easier way to get that connector on there. And that's about it. So that's a working MacBook. And I find it really interesting that on this model, if the display backlight is shorted to ground, it will just stop the display backlight from turning on, and the computer will work. But if the keyboard backlight is shorted to ground, which is part of the same circuit powered by the same chip, the entire machine dies. Quality engineering, Apple. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.